It was late on a dark, moonless night as a wild storm raged across the moors. The hideous witch flew closer to the lonely cottage, swooped down, and banged on the door. What was that?
Don't stop now.
Yo, I'm gonna say it. Books are overrated. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna qualify that, obviously. As someone who got their start on YouTube reviewing books, I read a lot, both for work and recreation. I enjoy and appreciate a good book as much as the next person. But the key word there is good. A book is just an artistic medium, one of many, and it has plenty of advantages in storytelling. The way a book engages with the reader's imagination, you can write the most fantastical story in the world, and production costs will be the same as if you wrote a quiet personal drama. A book also has disadvantages. Reading a novel is a far greater time investment than most other narrative mediums besides maybe video games. There are certain cognitive disabilities that can make reading a book incredibly difficult or impossible to a person that wouldn't affect their enjoyment of a movie or an album. A book is just one possible means of artistic expression and communication, but it's not magically superior to any other medium, and a lot of books are just bad. The ratio of good books and bad books are about the same as they are for movies, television shows, songs, and stage shows. However, in Western culture, we have venerated the book as a higher artistic medium, so much so that if a woman with a decluttering show on Netflix lightly suggests that a person might have too many books and could maybe possibly consider getting rid of a few that they don't read anymore, people freak out. Every once in a while, someone who doesn't know how libraries work discovers culling for the first time and throws a fit. A starving child in China could have eaten that copy of Captain Underpants. Now, sure, there is a historical foundation to the reverence of books. The creation of the printing press allowed for the spread of mass education across class lines, and for centuries, books were humanity's main way of storing and retrieving information. If an idea was regarded as dangerous to certain groups, famously fascist governments, then the best way to eradicate that idea was to destroy the books. So there's a lot of baggage for the book as a cultural artifact. But that's not our current reality. It hasn't been since post-industrial mass production, and especially not after the invention of the internet. Obviously, I'm not suggesting we chuck rare manuscripts into the sea, just that your copy of The Hunger Games isn't anything special. Now, when you throw children into the mix, you tend to come up with something quite condescending. I grew up with a lot of media that suggested that all these darn comic books and video games were rotting my brain, that kids were getting stupid because they weren't engaging with the proper mediums.
A book?
That's right. When I was your age, television was called books.
The video arcade is down the street. Here we just sell small rectangular objects. They're called books. Require a little effort on your part and make no beep 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 beeps. On your way, please.
I know books. I have 186 of them at home.
Ah, comic books.
No, I've read Treasure Island, The Last of the Mohicans, Wizard of Oz, Lord of the Rings, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Tarzan.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
That last clip is doubly important because a lot of the time when media is saying children aren't reading, what they're really saying is children aren't reading the right stuff. They're not reading the Western canon, the books that stuffy white university professors have decided are the important works. 1994 would prove to be a big year for this idea in the form of The Page Master, the Macaulay Culkin film about a boy who learns to face his fears by going on animated adventures in the worlds of Moby Dick, Treasure Island, and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The latter two were even written by the same guy. You couldn't find a third author for the Western canon to over-celebrate? Sorry, this is not a video about The Page Master. This is a video about another piece of Children Aren't Reading media from 1994. Season 3, Episode 6 of Are You Afraid of the Dark? The Tale of the Bookish Babysitter.
If you're really into a story, you become part of it, and you start to imagine what a horrible thing might be sneaking around the corner, ready to pounce. And you start to wonder what you'd do if you were the one facing the monster.
The show's 32nd episode overall, premiering on February 12, 1994, this story, as told by Midnight Society member Betty Ann, is that of a strange but charismatic woman named Belinda, who you can tell is some sort of wielder of magic due to her cloak, bag of old-fashioned books, and spiked bangs straight out of Beetlejuice. Belinda is quite the successful babysitter. Every kid she looks after seems to come out of it all smiles, leaving a trail of flabbergasted moms in her wake. What's her secret? Well, that's between her and the kids. Tonight she's looking after Ricky, a stubborn 12-year-old boy who thinks he's old enough to take care of himself and is not impressed when Belinda turns off the television and insists they read books for the night's entertainment.
We are going to read some books.
How did you do that?
I'll tell you what. You read a book for a few minutes and I'll leave you alone the rest of the night.
However, as Ricky reads the books, strange things start to happen, and the characters in the story start to appear in Ricky's house. A knight in armor trying to kill people with a sword, the ghost of an old man, and a witch posing as Belinda in an attempt to destroy the babysitter's books.
Ricky, don't listen to her. Let me in.
What's that?
You better let me in, Ricky. Ricky, let me in.
What's going on?
What do you think? Use your imagination,
I was afraid this was going to happen.
As reality breaks down and Belinda's book's now gone, the only way Ricky is going to get out of this is by creating a new book, using his imagination to fill in blank pages and come up with ways to dispatch these characters. The knight fulfills his duty, the curse on the ghost is lifted, and the witch is, oh my god. Yeah, it's cheap special effects, but still, wowzers, that's kind of intense. At the end of it all, Ricky has engaged with his imagination through books in a way he could never have thought possible, and Belinda has a fresh tome for her bookshelf.
Oh, Belinda, how much do I owe you?
I've already been paid, Mrs. Winter.
But seriously, $50, never work for free, kids. And so ends our tale. Just what is the moral here? That books. Now, what I think the episode is going for is that kids these days are lazy couch potatoes who don't know how to use their imagination because they don't read books. We're introduced to Ricky sitting on the couch, watching the TV with a giant bowl of potato chips. Classic lazy child signifiers. Except what he's watching is an old black and white horror movie. And he's wearing a shirt for a heavy metal band he likes. Ricky does engage with art, it's just not the right kind of art, according to the episode. The way Ricky walks through this fantasy setting is a bit weird. Supposedly it's him using his imagination to find his way through the story, but most of the time he's reading directly from this magic book and doesn't appear to be creating anything. When he does try and flex his creative muscles early on, Belinda shoots him down for not using his imagination correctly.
How about this? They ran down to the basement where he kept his Uzi. Yeah, his Uzi! Just in case of attacks by knights, ghosts, and other nasty things.
Afraid not.
Why not? What's wrong with that? It's a good ending.
Yeah, maybe for some silly TV show or something, but it doesn't make sense in this story.
Green is not a creative color.
It comes off as so condescending, especially when the actual imagined solution is hampered by its super cheap television budget. The Tale of the Bookish Babysitter was written by Cliff Bryant and Alice Elliott, their only writing credit for Are You Afraid of the Dark? I couldn't find anything on Bryant, but Alice Elliott would go on to produce and direct the 2002 documentary short The Collector of Bedford Street, which would net her an Oscar nomination, so that's cool. Bryant and Elliott's story was adapted into teleplay by David Preston, who had come out of the B-movie scene writing scripts for movies like Scanners 3 and Space Hunter, Adventures in the Forbidden Zone. He turned out to be a pretty good fit for the show, writing some of my favorite episodes from Season 3 like The Tale of the Dream Girl and The Tale of the Dollmaker. But here he's just another cook in the kitchen. This was the first episode of the show directed by Ian Patterson, who was coming in a little wet behind the ears, his previous credits including a couple of Comedy Central specials and being the second unit director for Ghoulies Go to College. He would eventually fit into the role of producer for 26 episodes, but here he is not doing the cheap production values any favors. The results are an episode that seems very unclear in how to say what it wants to say, unless what it wants to say is, hey kids, books encourage imagination, just be sure to imagine things the right way. Yeah, this isn't a favorite episode of mine, but it does have its qualities. Natalie Radford is pretty fun in the role of Belinda. She's constantly in a smug mood that I bought right away. Not because she has magical powers, but because she's a babysitter. Babysitters just talk down to kids like that.
I don't need a babysitter.
Wow! You must be extraordinarily, amazingly mature.
I was glad that the episode didn't have Ricky going on page master adventures in the Western canon. The story he ends up in was just some generic European fantasy fairy tale stuff. And the witch getting her belly slit open was a good shock to the system. A bit of the ultra-violence to wake you up. But sadly, it doesn't add up to a satisfying whole. I do feel a little bad going at this one. I know for a fact that this is a nostalgic favorite for the requester, but for me, the parts don't really come together to get its point across, and the point it's trying to get across I find to be pretty patronizing. Books are great. I love books. I encourage young people to explore their local library so long as they follow proper COVID safety protocols. I also encourage them to find the stories and mediums that engage them the most, not the ones that other people say are important, and to try and find works from around the world, from cultures they don't belong to. I mean, no shade to Treasure Island, but there's so much more out there, waiting to be discovered. As for The Tale of the Bookish Babysitter, it's watchable, but far from the classic Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes. But we'll take a look at those some other time. This was just a sample.